In 1990, we flew to Romania to adopt a baby. We found Lindsey, and she was only 2 weeks old. I can still remember that feeling, just holding Lindsey for the first time, thinking, now my dream is going to come true. I'll have one of those children. Before we left Romania, we had to make sure that she didn't have HIV. We had to find a doctor, and he did the test, and it came back negative. We flew home just after Christmas, 1990, and thought we had it made.
9 days after returning home, Steve and Cheryl's pediatrician ran a battery of tests on Lindsey, including an HIV test, even though Lindsey had tested negative for the virus in Romania.
Dr. McHugh called us and said, we run into some problems with the testing that you did at Methodist Hospital, and you'll need to come right in and see me.
I said, well, what is it? She says, well, I'm not going to tell you over the phone. I said, I need to know exactly what this is. He said, you know, we got bad news that she tests positive.
And he said, she'll have a 20% chance of living to age 2. That was just a shock after all this joy and happiness. We finally found our daughter, and I'm dancing around Romania, and now I come home, and it's like somebody could just stab me. And then I had to call my mom, and that was the worst phone call I've ever had to make, because I even remember saying, that poor girl, she's just not gonna make it. In August of '92, my dad had just read his latest National Review, and there was an article in there about Peter Duesberg, a maverick cell biologist. He said he didn't think HIV caused AIDS. He said, I can't replicate this in my office. I can't get this virus to do anything. We thought, oh my gosh, my dad is really daydreaming. He's trying to wish this all away because he knows how upset we are. Just wish it all away, and you know, everybody will be gone happy. Taking Lindsey to a doctor at the Children's Medical Clinic. She gave us a prescription for retrovir syrup, which is AZT. It was so important for us to get something to help our baby that we sat on the floor in the pharmacy and gave her first dose.
Shortly after Lindsey began AZT treatment, side effects began to emerge.
Her eating habits changed quite a bit. She didn't eat well. She was hard to handle at the table. And then the leg cramps started. Once that started, it got progressively worse.
She would just grab him and go, ow, you know, screaming in the middle of the night. Just like it was it wasn't an ache, it was like, must have been sharp pains. It just made you feel sick to your stomach.
Any drug active on HIV will be toxic because it's not 100% specific on the HIV enzymes.
When we switched over to the university, then the dosage of AZT went up, and that's where she started flattening out on her growth chart. The doctors would try to put a positive spin on how well she was progressing. It was mainly in the T cells that weren't always a positive situation.
Yeah, the T cell count would go down, and then the doctors would say, well, maybe we better raise that AZT dosage, get that T cell count back up. We were going, I think it's kind of making her sick because she doesn't want to eat. She's having leg cramps. And they'd say, well, it's the HIV, and that's what it does. It's all part of the package. We just decided between ourselves in November to write to Peter Duesberg and say, sorry to bother you. Are you for real? And if Lindsey were your daughter, what would you do? On November 11th, we got a big package, and he said, you must take your daughter off AZT immediately or she will die from it like Kimberly Bogalis.
The new generation of antiretroviral drugs are less toxic. They can be more tolerated. But for how long? I agree. We cannot give a treatment for life. It's not like insulin. You know, it's something which is toxic.
Once we came to the conclusion that this was the drug that was causing this problem, irregardless of what the HIV was going to do, she was going to come off the drug no matter what.
If taking her off the drugs meant that she could sleep through the night and be happy for 6 months, that would be worth it, rather than live in agony for 2 years or 12 months. After we took Lindsey off AZT, her weight did go up.
Within a couple of days, the leg cramps went away.
And her physical body seemed to be doing pretty well, but it was like she was disturbed. She was agitated very easily.
Her lifespan changed all the time after she got to be 2 years old, and then she'd only live to be 5.
When she got to be a little older, then they said, oh, she might live to be 7.
Yep. I definitely wouldn't live into double digits, and that's just was our life then.
Although Lindsey was on AZT for 22 months, she made a full recovery from the pernicious side effects. Lindsey will be 19 in October of 2009.
Do you remember Ryan White? Ryan White was born a hemophiliac in 1971. He received numerous blood transfusions for his condition. In December of 1984, he tested positive for HIV, the virus scientists claimed caused AIDS. Ryan White began to take powerful and poisonous drugs to combat the virus, including a failed cancer drug known as AZT. Ryan White lived his life on the run, ostracized by friends and neighbors for his diagnosis. Ryan White never had a girlfriend. Ryan White never grew up and had a career, a home, and a family of his own. In 1990, at the age of 18, Ryan White died in a hospital bed. When he was buried, Ryan White was called a hero in the battle against AIDS. The only problem is, Ryan White did not die of AIDS. Ryan White was murdered.